Hello there, Ramblers, and welcome back to Reese Rambles, my weekly podcast all about the latest comings and goings, movings and shakings, and indeed all the rest of it in the worlds of vintage and retro computing, gaming, and technology. Hope you're all doing well out there, and welcome once more to another glorious, hot and sunny weekend here in the UK. Now, I don't really have much to talk about, much of a preamble or kind of many updates on previous stories for this week. So I thought, you know what? Let's dive straight in with the very first news story. And it is indeed the end of an era. So, yeah, when we first got online as a family way back in 1995, I believe it was, my dad worked for a US company and they basically told him he needed access to email at home, and they set us up with a 28k modem, which I do actually still own somewhere. It's around here somewhere. Couldn't find it before I sat down to record this. And also an AOL account, America Online, which of course was also available here in the UK. Other ISPs were available. I think I had friends who were on CompuServe and Demon Internet and stuff like that. But yeah, we were with AOL, of course, with its own wonderful client software. Running on, I think we were actually still on Windows 3.1 at the time when we very first got online. But yeah, that era has now come to an end as AOL in the US has announced that it is finally discontinuing its dial-up internet access service. So here's the headline over on BBC News. AOL ends dial-up service after more than 30 years. AOL is shutting down the dial-up service that introduced homes across the US to the internet. The firm's dial-up offering connects to the internet via a phone line and currently only exists in the US and Canada. Now, I tried to find when this was actually shut down in the UK and I couldn't find any information on that. I did find that BT actually turned off their dial-up internet service way back in 2013. So yeah, quite a while back. Obviously, broadband adoption has been quite a big thing here in the UK, I guess. America being so much bigger and having so much more kind of remote rural areas, I guess that makes sense. And I did also find this story on Think Broadband, which actually dates to 2005, 20 years ago, that said that even all those years ago, 41% of UK internet users were using an always-on connection, e.g. broadband or leased line, and that 32% were using some kind of dial-up. So, yeah, I don't think there are many dial-up users at all, if any, left in the UK. I mean, if you are UK-based and you are still using dial-up, please do let me know down in the comments, because that'd be very interesting to hear about. But yeah, so going back to this initial BBC News story, apparently it was launched more than 30 years ago, and it was known for its chirpy, whirring startup sound, but it has long since been replaced by faster alternatives. Fewer than 300,000 people in the US reported having only a dial-up internet connection, compared with more than 300 million with a broadband service, according to 2023 government estimates. AOL routinely evaluates its products and services and has decided to discontinue dial-up internet, the company said in a notice to subscribers in the US and Canada on Friday. The service will no longer be available in AOL plans as of the 30th of September. The firm added, thanks for the memories, wrote AOL co-founder Steve Case, who presided over the firm's growth in the 1990s. The company was known for luring customers by mailing them, you'll see why I'm giggling in a second, free trial discs, and at one point claimed ownership of nearly 40% of the time that Americans spent online. And I do even remember AOL trial floppy disks. Of course, they moved to CDs a bit later on in the 90s, but I don't even know if I might still have one. So probably not. But I think my dad used to get them sent to his office all the time when I was a kid. All those years ago, 30 years ago. So there you go. Definitely the end of an era. As of the 30th of September, if you are still one of the 300,000 people across the US using AOL dial-up, you are unfortunately going to have to make alternative arrangements. So some big news from the Xbox 360 hacking and modding scene this week. Of course, I'm sure if you're a regular here, you will no doubt know that the Xbox 360 is one of my favourite consoles of all time. I owned the OG Xbox when they were brand new, and then of course I jumped on the 360 pretty much straight away, so I could play Halo LAN parties with my friends. But yeah, of course the 360 over the years has proven to be a bit of a tough nut to crack as far as cracking is concerned. So, of course, you've got the reset glitch hack, which I think is perhaps the most famous one. Hardware modifications required, and it I must admit, I'm not really all that up on the specific technical details of how that works, but essentially it sends electrical pulses to one of the chips, as far as I understand, to try to force it to reset. And it can take anything from a couple of seconds to a little bit longer. And that's pretty much, I think there's another method as well. But anyway, of course, the holy grail with all of these consoles is a software hacking method. So it was discovered way back in the day for the Nintendo Wii. I remember doing the banner bomb exploit on my Wii back in the day, and it was literally just a case of putting a save file on a USB stick, sticking it in the Wii, and loading it up. Yeah, of course, the 360 has been a very long time coming, but I did report a few months back that there was an effort along those lines, and that it was looking very promising indeed. And that was known as the Xbox 360 Bad Update by somebody called Grim Doomer. And it does have some quite serious caveats, just to kind of revisit this. So, yeah, it takes a very, very long time to apply, sometimes up to like 10, 15 minutes to actually run, as I reported at the time. And also, it isn't persistent. So every time you turn the 360 off, you need to run the exploit again. But of course, you know, it's very, very early days for that hack. And of course, it is being worked on and improved all the time by Grim Doomer. Now, you may have seen the headlines doing the rounds this week all about some kind of new Xbox 360 hack. And I will say, this is clickbait. So if we just go to MVG's video on this, any Xbox 360 can now be hacked in less than 1 minute. Now, of course, I'm not accusing MVG of clickbait. He does explain very clearly in the video what this is all about. And what this actually is an update to that old Grim Doomer Xbox 360 Bad Update exploit. So yeah, essentially you copy the exploit to a USB stick, you load it as a save game in it's a selection of games, but I think he's using Rock Band Blitz as the example in this video. And this is actually a massive, massive improvement on how this was originally. So yeah, as per the video title, as you might expect, this now takes less than a minute to run, which is fantastic. MVG, of course, as you might expect from MVG, with all of his experience in the world of cracking and hacking and homebrew and all of that stuff, does explain in great technical detail in the video why this works and how it has actually been improved. It essentially pre-computes a load of stuff and has a load of stuff that kind of pre-saved rather than kind of calculating it on the fly, essentially. But he explains it a lot better than I could. Now, it does still have this limitation that it isn't persistent, so you do need to run this every time you boot up the Xbox 360. Whether that's going to improve at some point in the future, I don't know. But you can use this to launch custom dashboards and homebrew and game backups and that kind of thing, which MVG does demo in the video. So very cool to see so much progress happening with this particular exploit, and it seems that it does have some legs, and there are improvements to be made to this, and also not only the speed has been massively improved, but also the reliability. This basically works over 80% of the time, as reported by the developer, but I think as far as MVG's findings were concerned, that it was essentially 100% of the time. It was a very, very unreliable exploit before, just by the very nature of it. And yeah, so cool to see improvements in this area. So hopefully, you never know, perhaps it could be combined with some kind of other exploit or something like that to be able to make it persistent, which of course would be the holy grail. Fire up your Xbox and launch into a custom dashboard straight away without any kind of hardware modifications or having to run this thing every single time. But all looking very promising indeed. If you are a PC gamer, as indeed am I, you will no doubt be familiar with a platform called Steam, which launched, believe it or not, over 20 years ago, all the way back in 2003, alongside Half-Life 2. And I do very distinctly remember skiving off of university to, that wasn't an unusual occurrence for me anyway, but to go down to my local PC World shop, ready for opening first thing in the morning, to pick up my boxed copy of Half-Life 2 and get it installed. And of course, it was the first appearance of Steam. Well, it was, at least as far as I was concerned. You could probably download it separately before the game came out. And it was a very basic, very simple affair at the time. It was basically used as the kind of DRM platform and had very basic kind of friends chat and stuff like that. a bit of a far cry from the huge, extensive online marketplace that it has, of course, grown into today. And indeed, in the process, making its founder and creator, Gabe Newell, very, very rich indeed. And oddly enough, over 20 plus years in the world of PC gaming, Valve have somehow managed to maintain their position as the good guys. I mean, they've built this big DRM platform that's kind of very closely tied into all of these games and things. And despite that, they do actually have a very good reputation for kind of being on the side of gamers and stuff, which is, I think, something to be applauded, quite sadly, in this day and age. But anyway, without getting too far off topic, of course, Gabe Newell is the focus of the big news story that's been doing the rounds this week, which is all to do with super yachts. Now, of course, all of these billionaires, these tech billionaires, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and the like, have to have super yachts. They're all into super yachts in a big way. That's not an unusual story. And apparently all of these yachts are built by a Dutch company called Ocean Co. Well, Gabe Newell just had to take things one step further this week, didn't he? Because he's actually acquired the company, Ocean Co. So they're actually in the process of building his current super yacht. $400 million it's cost him, apparently. And he liked it so much, he bought the company, as the old advertising marketing slogan used to go. And I think whatever company that actually applied to has been lost to time. So, anyway. The Valve founder, Gabe Newell, as reported here by The Verge, is setting out on a new adventure, and it doesn't involve Half-Life 3. Instead, Newell is acquiring Ocean Co., the yacht-building company that's creating his $400 million super ship, as reported earlier by Boat International. In a post about the change, Ocean Co. says Newell's interest in the brand comes from a lifelong fascination with the sea and a deep respect for the people who live and work on it. Ocean Co. is based in the Netherlands, and it has changed leadership a few times since its founding in 1987, with private investor Mohammed Al-Barwani helming the company for the past 15 years before Newell came along. Along with Newell's 364-foot-long super yacht, wow, Ocean Co. developed Amazon founder Jeff Bezos' $500 million sailing yacht, Koru, which stretches 417 feet long. Of course, Bezos had to have the longest one, didn't he? It's also behind the Chaos sailing super yacht owned by Walmart heir Nancy Walton Lowry, as well as the Bravo Eugenia owned by Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones. Newell has a growing fleet of yachts as well, including the Ocean Co-built Drac, formerly called the Tranquility, and the Rochinanti super yacht built by German yacht maker Lursen. As for what Newell plans to do, now that he's the head of a big super yacht builder, Ocean Co. puts it pretty simply. His first decision? Leave the team alone. Seriously, Ocean Co. has vision and integrity and a culture that actually works. Gabe doesn't want to fix it. He wants to fuel it, which is very cool to see indeed. And to be honest, based on his track record with Valve, of course, really doesn't surprise me. Leave them to do what they do best. So, one thing that I didn't spot in this story is what his super yacht is going to be called. Now, my money would probably be on the Borealis, of course, the mythical ship from the Half-Life universe, appeared in those original Half-Life betas and stuff that got leaked, didn't it? And, had a few mentions in the episodes and things, and supposedly going to be one of the settings for Half-Life 3 or Episode 3 or however that was going to work out. So, perhaps he's finally built a real-life version of that. I mean, certainly wouldn't put it past him. And, I think he'd probably have a nice little chuckle to himself about that as well. So, there you go. If you want to outdo Bezos by building the world's longest, most expensive super yacht, buy the company that built it. Some interesting news this week from the world of retail, specifically computer retail, computer components and parts, peripherals, all that wonderful stuff. And indeed, one of the longest running players in that space here in the UK. I'm talking about Ebuyer, a company that I personally have bought quite a lot of stuff from over the years, both on the work side of things and also, for personal use as well. And they've always had a very good customer service. They've got a great website and, of course, competitive pricing and all the rest of it. But unfortunately, the business has this week gone into administration and has actually been acquired by Fraser Group PLC, of course, owned by infamous British businessman Mike Ashley, known for basically gutting the value out of everything and slapping the brand on tat and piling it high and selling it for next to nothing, as he did with Sports Direct, perhaps most famously. And just before we get into this story over on the Register, he does own, I just thought I'd talk a bit about Mike Ashley himself and some of the companies that he owns. In fact, it says here on Google's AI overview, may as well use it as it's here, and we burnt down some trees to generate this. He's a British businessman primarily known for founding and leading Sports Direct, now Frasers Group. He also owned Newcastle United Football Club. Beyond his business interests, often acquired and integrated into Frasers Group, span a wide range of brands and companies, including House of Fraser, Evans Cycles, Jack Wills, and stakes in companies like Mulberry and Hugo Boss. And there we go. And there's just a bit of a list here of some of the companies. So House of Fraser and Sports Direct, of course, being the most famous. Game, of course, also in that space. Once great high street retailer of, games, computer games and console games, that kind of thing. Of course, now piled high with tat-like gift vouchers and Funko Pops and that kind of stuff. And sadly, it seems that that's the way that Ebuyer has also gone pretty much overnight as well, which is quite sad. So we'll have a look at the story over on the Register. Ebuyer website bought by Frasers Group PLC. Online... Come on, Reese, get it together. UK online reseller bought out of administration in pre-pack agreement, say sources. London Stock Exchange listed Frasers Group is understood to have bought struggling UK online tech bazaar Ebuyer from administrators in a pre-pack agreement, sources have told the Register. Frasers Group, run by Mike Ashley, the founder of Sports Direct, houses brands that also include House of Fraser, Flannels, blah-de-blah-de-blah. And just reports that the website at the time of writing of this article was saying coming soon, can't wait, and had a bit of a holding page up. But the website is now back up and trading, and of course it's running on the same platform as the rest of Frasers Group's websites. And it seems like they've just evidently got some kind of back end where they can go through and enable products that they think might be relevant to UK buyers. This is me talking, by the way, rather than the Register story. We will go back to that, but I want to take a quick look at the website for a start here. So if we go to Ebuyer, just on their support page there we go. This is a shadow of its former self. They are now selling kitchen appliances, which I'm sure most corporate IT buyers will no doubt be interested in. I did actually find, what did I find on here the other day, which really surprised me? Oh yeah, if we go to brands and then GHD, they are now selling hair straighteners as well, and hair dryers. They do sell some computer-related stuff. If we just go to laptops, we've got a selection of HP laptops on here. We've got ZAG, never heard of ZAG, EGL, an EGL 14-inch laptop, $149.99. As I say, purveyor of tat. This is in no particular order, is it? Oh, there's Apple stuff on here. Apple and HP stuff. They sell unisex laptops. I mean, the layered navigation on here. Look, I've built e-commerce websites and stuff in the past. This website is a complete and utter shambles, as you might expect. And the story actually goes a bit deeper than that as well, because if you look at their return policies and things, and this will be a familiar story to anyone who's had any kind of dealings with Frasers Group in the past. Whenever they acquire a business, they somehow manage to get their hands on all of the valuable stuff, like the property and the branding and the stock and stuff like that, and all of the liabilities, like gift vouchers that people have purchased in the past. Stuff like being liable for people's returns for any kind of faulty goods that they've bought in the past. That all goes away, in the corporate acquisition process, despite the very strong consumer protection laws that we have here in the UK. So, and I do actually know, I have actually had someone on my Discord who has been personally affected by this as well. So, there's a bit of a Q&A section on here. If you placed an order before the company went into administration, you need to contact them essentially, contact the administrators directly if you want to get a refund on that for whatever reason. And they are saying that anything that's faulty, essentially you may end up having to claim under the manufacturer's warranty directly with the manufacturer. So Yeah, wonderful customer experience for eBuyer's loyal customers of however many years. And of course, because they have completely changed the website and moved it all over onto their own platform overnight, all of the order history and stuff is gone as well. User accounts have to be recreated from scratch. So wonderful stuff, as is always the case with these, these things, these stuff going into administration and these acquisitions. But there you go. We'll go back to the register, shall we, just for some of the more technical details on this. Fraser Group plc has not yet issued a statement to the London Stock Exchange. The Reg has asked the business to comment. Additionally, we requested comment from eBuyer owners Mike Reed and Richard Marsden to ascertain what element or elements of the wider operation were sold. Sources in the UK supply chain last week told us that eBuyer had fallen on tough times and had worked to find a trade buyer in recent months. Letters were dispatched to potential prospects, but nothing came of those talks. We were also told of the more recent negotiations with Fraser Group. We understand Administrator FRP Advisory was waiting in the wings to take control of operations. A source close to the situation told us that this happened yesterday. We have asked FRP to comment today. And the story basically goes on to say that the winding up petition, which is essentially the kind of official request to wind up the business, was submitted by Urban Logistics Acquisitions in August, indicating that at least one bill hasn't been paid. And that's the company, that's essentially their landlord, eBuyer's landlord, who own their warehouses and stuff. So that's who has actually forced the company into compulsory liquidation. But there's some quite interesting information over on the register story, which of course will be linked in the usual places, talking about the administration process and the winding up process and stuff like that, which I find quite interesting as someone who is self-employed. But yeah, of course, the actual headline here is the absolutely abysmal customer experience that you might expect, as a result of this process, and also the death of a much-loved brand, eBuyer. So hopefully, maybe, as happened with Game, only a matter of time before you can pop into your local Sports Direct and pick up a new network switch, or many of the corporate IT things that eBuyer was well known for. So certainly a brand that will be missed. I certainly won't be buying anything from them in the future. And the end of an era. Way back in the early 90s, real-time strategy games ruled the roost. City-building games, of course, more kind of combat-focused games like that. And, build stuff, top-down view, all mouse-driven, build your stuff, gather your resources, create your tanks and things and go and attack the other guy down the road. All of that wonderful stuff. And, of course, we had, like I say, we had SimCity, which was kind of more of a city-building focused type game. On the combat side, the Command & Conquer series was absolutely huge. Red Alert, one of my absolute favourites of all time. Another very long-lived series. Civilization is another one. In fact, I think the one that I was most recently into in a big way was Civ 5, although I will say I think Civ 4 was the better game. But, hours of fun with that series over the years. And one of the big iconic names that you're no doubt familiar with from that entire world was, of course, The Settlers, which was released way back in 1993 on all of the kind of home computer platforms of the time, the Atari ST, the Amiga, the PC. And also grew into quite a long-lived series. In fact, apparently in 2010, Ubisoft, who now own the rights to The Settlers as a franchise, released The Settlers Online, which is still online. I've never actually played this. In fact, I didn't even discover that it was a thing until just now. But there you go. You can go over to thesettlersonline.com and you can create an account and you can go and play it online in your browser. Having not seen this thing before, I can only speculate that it has its own in-game currency and microtransactions and all of that rubbish that you might expect from a modern-day free-to-play browser game. But getting to the point, if you were a fan of the original Settlers game way back in the day, on the Amiga, you were probably very disappointed to find out that when the Settlers 2 was released, it was not available for that platform. which is quite unusual, really, because the Amiga was such a huge gaming platform in the 90s. Very, very capable machine, and of course, quite a long-lived machine as well, where people still using them way up, right up until the end of 1999, of people still using them as late as that. And they never actually got an official release of the Settlers 2, which was quite disappointing. But I think you will no doubt be pleased to hear that that has finally been rectified this year in 2025, as reported over on lookbehindyu.de, and this is an official release as well. This is officially licensed from Ubisoft, and finally you can buy a proper boxed copy of the Settlers 2 for your Amiga, which is always cool to see. Really good homebrew scene and stuff. Still a really big kind of development scene around the Amiga as well. It's kind of one of those platforms that really has stood the test of time. So the headline here over on developer Look Behind You's website, the iconic strategy game is finally coming to the Amiga. In 1993, the Settlers made a major impact on Amiga gaming and created a whole new genre, the city-building strategy game. When even more ambitious sequel, The Settlers 2, was released in 1996, it was a huge success and remains a fan favourite to this day. Unfortunately, the king of home computers missed out on it. Almost 30 years later, this gaming history is finally being corrected. With an official license from Ubisoft Entertainment, the Settlers 2 Gold Edition will be available natively for the Amiga on October the 18th, 2025. Not as a quick port, but as a lovingly optimised version that shows what the Amiga is really capable of, which is so cool to see. And we've got some screenshots here. We don't actually have a video, I don't think. I haven't been able to find one, but we do have some screenshots of the game in action here, and it is looking rather spiffy on the Amiga, I must say, and some pictures of the box as well. They look like they might be renders, but maybe they're not actually. Maybe they're actual photos. But really professional release. This a proper boxed copy. And they are offering a few different editions of this. So if we just have a look at the options here, we've got the standard boxed edition, which is €49.90. We've got the collector's edition, which is €99.90. And if you just want the digital edition, that will be €29.90, which is wonderful to see. And of course, if you head over to the product page, which of course will be linked in the usual places, sing along at home, you can see all of the information about the different editions and what they consist of. So we've got a description as to what the Settlers 2 actually is, the story here. We've got thousands of lovingly animated settlers, over 30 different professions, including 6 types of soldiers, 4 different races with different character types. We've got the Romans, the Asians, the Nubians, and the Vikings. We've got landscapes including lava, ice fields, swamps, forests, and much more, including the stunning winter scenery from the Settlers 2 mission CD. 10 Roman campaigns, 9 world campaigns, 130 free bonus maps, integrated in-game help, optimized game interface. We've got 4 languages supported here: English, German, French, and Polish. So the box edition it will feature a classic box format with a slip lid for €49.90 and includes a DVD plus download option, a coloured world atlas, manuals in German and English, as well as 4 exclusive and collectible retro design postcards. Then we have the collector's edition, which is available from December. And this is a wooden box in the original Settlers 2 design. It will be limited to 100 copies and will also include an exclusive metal magnet, which is cool, with the iconic castle motif from the first Settlers game, a real gem for every Amiga enthusiast and box collector. And of course, finally, we have that digital edition, which is for immediate gaming fun. Download-only version will be available for €29.90. And the requirements here for the 68K version are an Amiga with the AGA chipset. You will need a 68040 and 32 megabytes of fast RAM. So we're talking a bit of a beast of an Amiga here. Of course, you'll need Amiga OS 3.1, AHI 4.18, and 600 megabytes of free hard disk space. And the recommended system requirements are even higher than that. So for low res, you'll need a 50 megahertz 68060 with 64 megs of RAM. And for the high res mode, you will need a 100 megahertz 68060. And they are actually recommending a Pi Storm for that, which of course is a Raspberry Pi based accelerator for the Amiga. There's also a PowerPC version. So if you have a PPC Amiga with a 603E CPU and 175 megahertz, 32 meg of RAM, You can play the PowerPC version of that, and their recommended requirements are a G3 running at 800 megahertz or higher. So all very cool, and yeah, I like the fact that this is officially licensed as well from Ubisoft. Of course, they still own all the trademarks and things, so there wasn't really any other way to do this if they wanted to actually sell it and offer it as a commercial offering. But yeah, so cool to see that a game that the Amiga missed out on way back in 1996 is now finally available as a proper boxed product. So that will be linked down below. Go check it out if you want to go and pre-order that, and that will be shipping in October if you buy the standard edition, or December if you want that wonderful wooden box and all the extras that come along with it. In a world of joysticks, control pads, keyboards and mice, one thing that always stands out is a weird and wonderful control scheme. Something like, just to name an example off the top of my head, the Nintendo Wii, which I covered on my main channel, Control-Alt-Reese, quite recently, with its motion controls. And of course, that has continued all the way through to the Switch and the Switch 2, Nintendo's latest offerings, just to pick a random example. Yeah, over the years, of course, there have been lots of interesting experiments when it comes to controlling games. Perhaps more on the arcade side, of course, when you can design the cabinet around the game itself. We had stuff like Battle Zone with that periscope type thing that you look into. We had Paperboy with the handlebar controls, trackballs and all the rest of it. Even like snooker and golf games, football games, stuff like that. But yeah, as far as home consoles are concerned, and particularly handhelds, I think it's always very interesting when the manufacturers come up with something that we haven't seen before. And that certainly was the case with this console, the Playdate. So this was announced way back in 2019 and eventually released in 2022. And it's a handheld console with a crank handle on the side. And it is actually incorporated into the gameplay of some of the games as well. Now, this was something that very much came up on my radar back when it was first announced, although I never picked one up. And to be fair, I don't think I actually know anyone who owns one of these or has ever... I've certainly never seen one in real life or played with one, but I have always been very much on board with the concept of it. And it's not just the controls, I will say, just before we get into this story. It's also the way that the games are distributed on this as well. So actually, if you buy the Playdate, you get games in these kind of season packs, which unlock 2 games at a time and kind of appear on the console, which is quite a cool concept, isn't it? And according to Wikipedia here, they did actually, in 2023, they did actually launch their own online web store as well, where you can actually go and purchase individual games. And then apparently Season 2 is going to be starting in 2025. So, yeah, and of course, lots of very original games on this platform, which aren't available on any other platforms. It's not really known for its ports and stuff like that. Of course, the interesting controls spawning their own whole world of innovation as far as the game development for this system is concerned. But hey, if you want to go back and play some old games from a slightly more familiar looking platform, one that you might want to consider with this monochrome screen, the D-pad and the 2 buttons input, just setting aside the crank, one system that you might consider, of course, you might think would be quite a natural fit, would be the original Game Boy. And indeed, that is the case. Now, I will say this isn't the first Game Boy emulator available for the Playdate. This has been done before, but this one is quite noteworthy in the fact that it does support the crank in some games if you want to wind your way to success in Zelda or Mario or whatever. So this has been reported over on timeextension.com. And the story begins that when I reviewed the Playdate in 2019, I said it felt like a successor to the Game Boy. Its monochrome screen and humble power reminded me of how Nintendo's handheld took the market by storm in 1989, despite not offering cutting-edge technology. Things have now come full circle in a way because Playdate has been capable of running Game Boy games via emulation for a while, and a new emulator has just been released for the device. We've got a link to the GitHub here, so we'll just open that up in preparation. And as spotted by deeb.bsky.social over on Blue Sky, Crank Boy HQ offers stable full-speed performance with sound and even has options for reconfiguring each game to properly make use of the console's wider screen. There's also the ability to make use of the Playdate's crank in certain Game Boy titles. It's forked from another Playdate Game Boy emulator, PlayGB, and is based on Delta Beard's Peanut GB. You can see footage of the emulator in action below. So we'll just hit play on this video first before we go and check out the GitHub. So here we go, just turn the sound off on that. And as you can see, quite an authentic looking Game Boy. This is Wario Land, isn't it? Excellent choice of game, one of my favourite games on the system. And yeah, as you can see here from this short video, the game is running at full speed. Oh, it's not Wario. Is that Wario Land? Maybe it's not. Oh, it's Zelda. Of course, they both start with that kind of animated, parallax scrolling ocean setting with the ship and stuff. Apologies, of course, Zelda, another wonderful game on the Game Boy. But yeah, and you can actually, there are some screenshots here showing that you can actually move the UI, the user interface, around the screen. So there's a screenshot here of Zelda, and the remaining lives and the other kind of bits and pieces usually displayed on the screen have been moved over to the side, which is a really cool use of the wide screen on this console. And we've got Kirby here, and you've got your remaining lives and stuff like that, your score and things, also displayed in the same place. So a lot of thought has gone into this, and of course, specific hacks for specific Game Boy games as well to modify those to suit the console, which I think is quite unusual in the world of emulation, and something that is quite noteworthy. Hence, I'm talking about it now. So if we just head over to the GitHub, we've got the Crankboy app by Crankboy HQ. Full-speed Game Boy emulator for the Playdate. It's a fork of PlayGB based on Peanut GB, a header-only C Game Boy emulator by Delta Beard. And the features here are quite extensive. It's stable, full-speed Game Boy emulation, cartridge data saves automatically, 44.1 kilohertz audio, settings to fine-tune the performance, the appearance, and the controls. We've got save states. We've got cover art for the games that you can download directly on the device itself. It checks for updates automatically. It can automatically patch files, so if you want to download ROM hacks and stuff like that and have those automatically applied to your games, it can do all of that for you seamlessly in the background. And indeed, if you want to develop homebrew games for the Game Boy with support for those Playdate features, you can actually do that and run it via this emulator, and it gives you access to all of that stuff as well. So really kind of extensive. Oh, I should talk about this feature as well, because this is quite cool for people making their own homebrew games, of course. It can be installed in bundle mode, so you can actually sell it with, actually make it available with just a single game, which of course opens up the market for people releasing their own Game Boy games on the Playdate with very little effort as a kind of individually purchasable, downloadable games, which is cool to see. Cool to see. Game Boy Color games not supported, of course. It only has a black and white screen. And there are still some games that aren't working, some issues with audio accuracy, stuff like that. Of course, this is a kind of an early release, and I expect that it will only improve over time. So there you go. If you are one of the lucky few people who own one of these Playdate consoles, and you also happen to be a Game Boy fan, and you want to play some games in a lovely Playdate optimized way, as well as having a bit of a play about with mapping that crank controller to various controls within your favorite Game Boy games, there is now an option available to you in the form of Crankboy app, and it will be linked in the usual places, as you might expect. And just as a reminder, if you're watching this on YouTube, that is down in the description. And if you're listening to this on your favourite podcast platform, you can go and tap and go into the information, and you should see all the links and the information for this episode in there, as per every other episode of Reese Rambles. Anyway, I really am rambling now, so perhaps it's time we got into our video of the week. And indeed, that does bring us around quite neatly to my regular video of the week feature, wherein I feature a video that I have seen here on the YouTubes in the past week that has enlightened or entertained or educated or otherwise improved my life in some small way. Sometimes I have one video for you, sometimes I have more than one, sometimes they're on topic, and sometimes they're completely and utterly off topic. But I am very pleased to report that this week I have two videos, and they are both very much on topic for us. So yay, go me again. Now, without further ado, I think we'll jump straight into these. One of these is from a really small up-and-coming channel. They actually have, at the time of recording, only 1,800 subscribers. So if you do enjoy this video, please do go and subscribe to the channel as well as giving them a bit of support. They have had some quite negative feedback in the comments that I thought was quite unfortunate, but I did leave my own supportive comment. So the second one is from a much bigger channel, but I also very much enjoyed it. And these are both videos that cover some of my favourite games from back in the day. So let's jump into this first one. And this is from a channel called RDev, and the title is I Recreated Half-Life 2, but it's Doom. And essentially what RDev has done here is they've taken Half-Life 2 and basically recreated at least part of it within Doom. Now, what I will say is that they didn't use the Doom engine, or indeed the GZ Doom or GZ Doom, whatever you prefer. And that's kind of where some of the negative feedback has come from, because I think a lot of people have clicked on this video expecting it to have been done within a Doom engine. And actually what they've done is they've kind of recreated a whole kind of Doom-style game, a whole Doom-style kind of look and feel, but set in the Half-Life 2 universe within Unity, which is actually a massive amount of work. And the reason that the developer has stated that they've done it this way is because they needed the physics support from Unity. Now, a few people have pointed out that, of course, GZ Doom does support physics and stuff like that. But hey, it is what it is. And one thing that I will say about this video is that I thought it was a very well put together video. It does tell the story of how this game was actually built really nicely. And I just thought it was a really cool and interesting project. Of course, I'm a huge fan of Doom and of Half-Life as well. And the end result, as you can probably see, if you're watching this on YouTube and you can see some of the footage that I'm playing here, is actually kind of surprisingly Doom-like, but also does look like a lot of fun as well. And indeed, this has actually been released. So you can go to the itch.io page, and you can actually play this in a browser, or you can download it and you can run it locally. So this is the Raven Home portion of Half-Life 2, of course, with the zombies and the flinging the saw blades around with a gravity gun and stuff, which has all been implemented within this game, I will say, within a Doom-style game. And yeah, just cool project, cool little video, and always nice to give a bit of a shout out to a smaller channel as well, RDev. So yeah, I'm looking forward to checking out some of their other projects. And of course, that will be linked in the usual places, as you might expect. Now, my second video, as mentioned, is from, we've just got a bit of an animated talking G-Man in, yeah, that's quite disturbing, isn't it, as a kind of old school style sprite. But anyway, second video, oddly enough, is also about a Valve game, although this is a bit of a slightly different style of video again. And this is from a channel called Pretzel. Now, this is called The World You Can't See in Portal. And I must admit, I expected going into this that this would be, kind of exploring some of the outer bounds areas and the off-limits areas in Portal, and kind of talking about a bit of the backstory. Of course, Valve hid a load of Easter eggs and stuff. And, of course, there are a lot of people over the years, I mean, it's an old game now, who have completely and utterly picked this game apart and scoured, every single pixel of it, looking for clues and hints and things. And Valve do occasionally update it as well and add extra things in as well, just to keep people on their toes. But yeah, this isn't what I was expecting from this video. What this is a really nice, kind of a gentle narrated walkthrough of Portal, and it's quite hard to describe. I've not really seen this kind of video on YouTube before, but once I started watching, even though it wasn't what I expected, I couldn't actually stop watching it just because of the style of the storytelling, and it was also nice to kind of see all of the Portal test chambers and some of the references to some of the the backstory and the Ratman's hidey holes and things like that as well. So again, a video that I thought was actually really well made, really well put together. A much bigger channel here, 88,000 subscribers. Pretzel, not one that I was familiar with, but again, one that I am looking forward to checking out some more videos from. But I think if you are a fan of Portal and you perhaps haven't played it in quite a long time and you just kind of want to revisit those levels, and there is some kind of background behind the scenes stuff in this as well. He does kind of clip his way out of the levels and kind of show a little bit about how they kind of fit together and stuff. But yeah, it's an interesting kind of story, the way that it's told, and thought it was quite novel, quite interesting. So highly recommended for fans of that game. And indeed, good storytelling on YouTube in general. So that one's at 17 minutes long. The first video I mentioned is 14 minutes and 13 seconds. So a little bit of something for everyone there. We've got Half-Life 2, at least the Ravenholm part, created in Doom, except not in Doom, in a Doom-style game that has been created in Unity. Still, doesn't detract from it, I don't think anyway. And yeah, a rather interesting and poetic almost exploration of Portal, one of my favourite games of all time. And that's all I have for you for this week's Ramble, is what I would be saying if that was indeed all I had for you for this week's Ramble. But I do actually have one more story, something that's literally just popped up on my Discord server that somebody posted. I've literally just spotted this as I sat down to record, watched a few seconds of the footage and thought, you know what, let's explore this together, because this is a brand new Atari 2600 game. And based on what I've seen, it looks very technically impressive indeed. And of course, we haven't had any other Atari stories this week, which would be unusual for me. So I can't let this one pass me by. Now, if we head over to the Arcade USA YouTube channel, you can see here we have a video of a game called Boom, which is apparently developed by a company called Champ Games. And you can also go and download a demo of this as well if you own a flash cart for your Atari 2600, which is really cool. So if you're watching this on YouTube, of course, your mind will have gone straight to the same place that mine did, which is, of course, Bomberman. This is a Bomberman clone. And yeah, Bomberman, really fantastic game series over the years. And it just amazes me, some of the stuff that people can do with the 2600 these days. I mean, all right, back in the day, of course, we had Activision with stuff like River Raid and Pitfall, and really kind of pushing the boundaries of what was possible on the 2600, scrolling and detailed sprites and that kind of stuff. And this is all very much put to good use here by Champ Games in Boom. So, yeah, as we can see, it is very much a Bomberman-inspired game, running around a kind of a maze here, dropping bombs, blowing up brick walls, killing enemies and stuff. And if we just head over to their website, you can download demo versions of not only this game, but all of their other games as well. And really nice to see that they have released demo downloads in NTSC and also PAL format, which is really cool. And I will just say that they do have a lot of other games available as well. They do physical cartridge releases, I believe, based on what I've seen. And if we just look at some of the names here, we've got Scramble, we've got Ladybug, we've got Mappy, we've got Galagon. Is that a Galaga clone for the Atari 2600? Wizard of War. I'm going to have to explore Champ Games' library, because it looks like they're doing some fantastic work. And I must say, it's not a developer I've actually come across before. But they do have this brand new release of Boom, a Bomberman clone for the Atari 2600. And yeah, you can go and download the demo and stick it on your flash cart. And that is actually, this time, telling the truth this time, all that I have for you for this week's Ramble. So I just want to say a big thank you to my Discord users who submitted some of the stories this week. So that's Suze, Flibblsan, Steve's Tech Shed, Tech Nick, and Manemo. Some of the regular suspects there, so thank you ever so much for posting stuff over in the Ramble Submissions channel on my Discord server. Of course, if you want to join my Discord, you are more than welcome. There's a great community over there, chatting about all sorts of stuff all day, every day. We recently added a Grumbles channel where you can post your minor grumbles. I think there was some stuff in there about hand dryers not working very well. Yeah, it's a laugh a minute. Anyway, on a more serious note, thank you ever so much for joining me once more for this week's Ramble. Of course, this goes out on YouTube on my second channel, Reese Rambles, which is youtube.com/Reese Rambles, I think. On all of the podcasting platforms and everywhere else you might get your podcasts and videos and whatnot. So thank you ever so much for joining me. And that's it. Bye.